asked that a lot.
By all your fans.
My mom asks me that all the time. I am a bit of an influencer. Hello. Welcome to the podcast, Two Girls, a Guy, and a Dog.
No, we just said it was a toast to travelers. You can't change
Welcome
the name
to
mid-podcast.
Toast to Travelers.
So the first toast to traveler. So you are Caleb. That is Emmy. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am the Director of Recruitment at Next Move. I've been with Next Move pretty much since the beginning, since we started. Prior to that, I was an ICU nurse for 7 years, and 5 of those I was a traveler.
Did you enjoy your time as a traveler?
I absolutely loved it. I've been a director for a few years. I'm like, why did I quit being a travel nurse? It was really awesome. Maybe cut that part out. Don't let our CEO see that.
That's a John Nolan.
Don't show that
Take this
to.
as Caleb's resignation.
Yeah, don't show that to the executive team.
So what made you want to go from being a staff nurse to a travel nurse?
I had like $50,000 in student loans. Nurses are way underpaid anyway, like especially staff nurses. I was trying to figure out a way to one, get out of debt. I also just kind of always knew that I wanted to be a travel nurse.
When you traveled, what were your, let's say, top 3 places that you went?
I get asked that a lot.
By all your fans.
My mom asks me that all the time. I intentionally only went to places that I really wanted to go to. My 3 favorite would probably be Maine, Austin, Texas, Charleston.
Well, Emmy girl is like stealing the show over here.
Yeah.
Emmy, where are your favorite places to travel?
She's like, I like to go to couch. I love bedroom.
Nice to go outside.
Yeah. I love couch, room, outside.
Anywhere that doesn't involve going by a car, she's
Yeah.
in.
But yeah, I mean, I only went to really cool places for the most part. I mean, I went to St. Louis once. No offense to St. Louis. I can say that because I'm from Missouri. Some of the coolest places are the ones that like aren't on people's radar. Everyone wants to go to Boston.
San Diego. I don't know why people are obsessed with Boston.
I didn't know that.
Like Milwaukee was one of my favorite assignments ever. Madison was also, maybe I just really like Wisconsin.
Okay, so tell us how you got started.
It was kind of like scary how quickly and how fast I went from being a staff nurse to a travel nurse. A good friend of mine was a respiratory therapist at the hospital I worked at. She had a recruiter that she was using, and I knew that she had just started traveling, so she gave me her recruiter's info, and like I set up the call. And I was really thinking it was more going to be like I was getting interviewed, I guess, and not led. I was, I guess, kind of the commodity. Like she called and essentially was like, where do you want to go? And what are your options? I was like, I honestly didn't really think that far. That agency was based out of Scottsdale, so she had a lot of contacts there and said maybe you should consider going to Phoenix. And so I did. I think after that phone call, I was moving to Phoenix like 3 or 4 weeks later.
It was a very quick turnaround time. Did you
Very.
know that it was going to move that fast when you started the process?
Absolutely not. I didn't. It was kind of like an adventure. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. So went out there solo and ended up kicking off my traveling career that way, and it was awesome.
And then you traveled consistently for the next 5 years?
Yes.
Wow.
So that was the first of, I think, 14 assignments over the next 5 years.
Did you do all of your assignments back to back, or did you take time off in between contracts?
A little bit mix of both. So that's actually one of the things I really miss about traveling is that I basically worked like 9 months out of the year. If I was taking a contract, I would a lot of the times take anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks out in between. Very rarely would I like end one assignment and immediately start the next one, because that's just not my style. I don't really like working anyway, so take advantage of it and use that flexibility to take the time off.
And it's one of the few careers that gives you that opportunity. I went to my boss and said, I'm going to take a couple weeks before I start this next project.
Yeah.
I don't think it would go over as well.
Yeah, and actually now I think about it, like, I don't think there's any flexibility that I'll ever have again that like rivals being a traveler. It's like one of the harsh realities of like going into the business side of things after, which is like, aside from the pay being good, like there's not that much autonomy over your own schedule, and I don't think any industry really besides. And yeah, actually I can't think of anything what would give me that.
So what obstacles did you run into like at the
Well, one, I mean, despite the fact I did get started very quickly, one obstacle was that I was shy of 2 years experience as a nurse. So I had to kind of convince my recruiter that I had a good enough experience and background to get started. I will say that was probably a bad idea. I really should have got my full 2 and maybe a little bit more, because the first hospital I was at was a pretty difficult facility and very high level, and I was still a baby nurse. So that ended up being an obstacle just because I was very stressed out at work of like having some imposter syndrome, not feeling like I knew exactly what I should be doing because I just didn't have that level of experience.
And that's the primary reason that most facilities require 2 years, correct? Because travel nurses
Yes.
tend to get kind of thrown into
Absolutely.
their new facility and
For
expected
sure.
to just pick things up.
You have to be able to come in and immediately make a difference and make an impact on the unit. That's why they hired you. To kind of be like the badass that comes in and can do whatever. And I was not the badass that could come in and do whatever. I came in, I was like, help me do this.
Somebody help me, I don't know what's going on.
Somebody please help me learn how to do this thing really quickly. Or I'm going to go to the break room and watch a YouTube video on how to do this procedure real quick.
They kind of expected you to
Yeah.
be able to come in and know exactly what was going on. And
Yeah, for sure. So,
Okay.
yeah, the experience like cannot be overstated, and I mean the type of experience too. Like 2 years in a level 1 trauma setting, which is the highest level hospital that you would be operating in, versus somebody who has 2 years in maybe a critical access hospital, which sees very low acuity patients, essentially patients that aren't very sick. They won't get the same exposure. So where length of experience matters, but where you get the experience at matters a lot too.
is there anything else you wish you would have known prior to jumping from staff nursing to travel nursing?
I think the experience was a big part of it. I think I would have planned a little bit more as well. I mean, the spontaneity of it is part of like the appeal and why it was fun for me. But like planning it a little bit better would have been nice. I mean, just some of the difficult aspects of finding housing, and as nice as it is, like having, I said I worked 9 months and like having those gaps off and stuff, it can change really quickly of, oh, I've had like a month off and now I'm having trouble finding an assignment, and I was really irresponsible with my money and I blew through all of it. So
After you paid off
after
your
I paid off
student
my
loans,
student
right?
loans,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.